palace of the earth stood as the beacon of purity, as one of the highest, if not the tallest pony-made structures in all of Gaia. Revolution Day was still months away, and the Gaiopolis Art Symphony and the Republic Theatre frantically busied themselves with practice and auditions for the pageant that told the story of how the Earth ponies overthrew the unicorns that occupied the obstinate castle where the palace now stood. The Palace of the Earth was built to meet the future with form and function based on lost technology architecture the Earth ponies had unearthed. They didn't just want to build on top of the old castle. They had to build taller, better, and with a futuristic idea in the form of a thin, four-sided spire designed with crosswings for airship docking. It overlooked the wide sprawl of Gaiopolis. And even though its white colors stood in high contrast against the mountains, every pony who ventured in its structures felt safe due to the constant patrol of heavily armed airships and fighter jets. No pony lived in the palace spire, but below it was the multi-level chancellor's quarters. For Posey, she would not have to inconvenience herself from traveling very far to greet the clothed delegates arriving from Gaia's allied nations. She shook the hooves of Ambassadors Zecora of Zebrica, Hakim and Amira of Saddle Arabia, and many more representatives from nations like the Far Eastern Island Empire of Komakuni and the Isle of Man. All had brought her gifts of their land, most of which had already been given to them in bulk as food and exotic animals that were taken through the palace's lower levels. That didn't stop the delegates to personally give Posey's gifts in the form of jewelry and hoof-woven rugs, to name a few. The last delegate had given her something special. At first Posey thought it was another rare and exotic bird, but when she pulled the cover off the mesh cage, she discovered butterflies fluttering inside. "Butterflies," said Posey, as she tried to contort her eyebrows twitch. "You have given me butterflies." "Si, Senora Chancellor," smiled the delegate. "We have heard you loved butterflies, so we knew it would please you if you added the rare Greta Otto, the glass-winged butterfly, to your collection. Unless you already have it already." "Oh no, this is the first time I have ever seen it. Wow, thank you. I certainly treasure and nurture these creatures as long as I could. If you please, allow my top 3 president advisors lead you to the dining hall." She kept up her fake smile as that well-meaning delegate disappeared down the hallway. Immediately, Posey shoved the mesh cage into the hooves of one of the plain-dressed maids and stormed off. "Make sure they're dead when I get back to my office," she ordered. Applejack and Twilight managed to knock out 2 maids going down into storage for their uniforms for Sunny and Spike to wear. For the latter, though, Twilight and Applejack had to quickly perform some alterations to make sure it fit the baby dragon and hid his feet, claws and tail. "I don't think this is going to work," said Spike. "How is covering my tail with stocking going to fool them?" "No complaining," said Applejack as she snipped another sleeve with her katana. "As long as you're on all fours, no pony should be able to suspect you. Twy, you sure you ain't using your magic?" "I'm not even casting the one that hides my horn," replied the unicorn. "Good, and I hope Sunny ain't exerting some weird magic we haven't seen or feel." They were in the belly of the beast, known as the Palace of the Earth, the heart of the most prosperous and most feared nation on the planet. Posey was throwing a private birthday party for her daughter, and the palace swarmed with security. Twilight could no longer use any spell, and she would need to find a way to cover her horn on her head. "Where the bloody hoof is Shoeshine and Sandy?" a stallion asked aloud. "Mars, it's been almost 5 minutes already." The mares quickly finished their alterations. Applejack reverted her katana back its necklace form, and she and the rest of her group and the dragon hid in their hiding spots in the pipe-filled basement utility access. They couldn't have gotten lost, could they? Said another stallion. The palace is awful big. It's their problem when Matron Harshwini grills them. Don't know why we have to bring up 4 bushels of peas. I hate peas. Don't worry, my dear friend Turner. I know a shortcut to get down there. Their accents sounded so similar that one could wonder if they were brothers, but more than likely they would have come from the Isle of Man. The brown and blue stallions stepped into the basement access hallway, and then they were knocked out before they could even react. Applejack and Twilight took off their now tattered government uniforms and slipped into the tuxedos they stripped from the stallions. Though loose, they looked quite dapper and handsome, and with a few adjustments to their manes, they could easily pass off as eligible young stallions. Of course, therein lies the problem of Twilight's horn, and Applejack had to resort to covering it with her Stetson hat. Just take care of it for me, will ya? Said Applejack. Now let's sneak out of here before some pony notices us. They did not get very far when they tip-hoofed out into the hallway. The loud clearing of an older mare's throat startled them, and they turned around to freeze in attention. Where have you been? Mrs. Harshwini frowned. Are 4 ponies necessary to retrieve 4 bushels of peas? No, ma'am, Applejack replied in her deepest voice. And you, what's with the head? A pony from Osponia gave it to me to hold for him, Twilight replied. Well, those ponies from down under are a rowdy bunch, but nonetheless an earth pony is an earth pony, as well as an esteemed guest to our great chancellor. Now go and put that away along with the peers. I need you and the 2 maids to help me with the reception dinner. You, sir, I need you to replace that light bulb in Lady Winter's room, like I told you. Now get to it. Are you talking to me? Applejack asked. Who else? Applejack had split off from her group, hounded by the blonde and brown-colored shrew of a mare until Harshwini suddenly turned a corner to yell at the other maids and butlers. So far, so good. Applejack had yet to be recognized, head or no head. It seemed too good to be true that she and her companions deceived Harshwini's discerning eyes. Either that, or the matron was too dense to realize it. Then again, today was Winter Tulip's birthday party, and many ponies were hired off the streets of Ponyville as extra help. It wasn't an official holiday, but Posy, despite her ruthlessness, spoiled her daughter extravagantly. Applejack managed to clue in on Winter's room by the ladder and box of light bulbs placed next to a door. She entered after knocking to make sure it wasn't occupied, or a trap. After hearing no response, she entered into a rich little filly's room where hoof-carved bedposts and silken pink sheets decorated the bed. The partially open walk-in closet revealed a small sample of the prettiest dresses crafted from the finest materials. Winter had her own private bathroom, and she had her own playroom filled with the most beautiful toys and dolls. The orange mare did feel a slight bit of envy of all these possessions, but she immediately reminded herself that Winter's prosperity was funded of the sweat and blood of working ponies and the spoils of countless wars. Applejack started flipping on and off random light switches and found the light bulb that needed replacing located at the corner wall above the cabinets. Easy. This was a filly's work compared to the hard labor back at her farm, but the ponies living here lived too much like the unicorn kings and queens that their ancestors overthrew almost 1,000 years ago. She had a devilish thought of crossing the wires to spark a fire to set this spoiled filly's room ablaze. If she were lucky, she would burn the entire palace down, just as Posy burnt down Applejack's family farm. It took everything within Applejack to resist these temptations, because her companions were still inside, possibly captured by now. She found dust on her sleeve. and sought out some kind of rag to wipe it off. Treading down the ladder, she noticed a pink cloth scrunched up against a pewter lantern next to the nightstand. She picked up that cloth, and before she could wipe herself, Applejack felt something embroidered on its surface. Under the lantern's light, she took one look and read A.B. This had to be a joke. At the very least, let it be a magical illusion. She remembered her sickly mother, staying up late at night, sewing together a pink ribbon for the newborn foal she would soon give her life for. Whether it became a colt or filly, Applejack's mother was going to name the child Applebloom. A.B. Angrily, Applejack crushed the ribbon between her hoof. Posy was mocking her. She was spitting on the graves of her lost family by using her little sister's ribbon as a mere wash rag. The urge to burn this place down had risen within her once more. "Those Aussies are a hoot, aren't they?" spoke a filly from behind the door. "What are you saying?" said another. "You were eyeing that colt from Hoof Spagnola, Diamond Tiara." "Isn't he almost a stallion?" asked a third voice. "The colt your father is making you marry is already one, Silver Spoon." Applejack braced herself stiff when the door opened. A yellow filly flanked by a pink one and a grey one was surprised by a stranger in the bedroom, but all three suppressed any inklings of screaming for help. Instead, the pink filly and the grey one cocked an eyebrow and held their giggles behind sly smiles. "My apologies, ma'am." Applejack bowed to the filly's general direction. "I shall be on my way." It took almost everything not to whack the girl with the ladder. As much as she hated spoiled rich fillies, she could not bring herself to harm them, at least not right now, when she had worry over her companion's fates. "He sure was cute," said Diamond Tiara. "You don't see a lot of stallions with long manes and tails," said Silver Spoon. "You think he's available?" "How should I know?" Winter replied. "We go through butlers and maids like clockwork. Mom is paranoid like that." The fillies giggled away, and Applejack dragged the ladder and the box of bulbs down the carpeted halls, somewhat lost. At times during her rebel life on the run, she had looked at the stolen floor plans of the Palace of the Earth to get an idea on how to strike back at Posy. The layout had not changed overall, but the floor plans she had seen were years old, and the room designations would have already been changed by now. Luckily for her, she managed to find one of the hidden storage utility closets. Before she could even resume her search for Twilight and the others, the harsh whinny was at her face again. "Idiot!" she said to the orange pony. "You forgot to unclog the drain in Lady Winter's bathroom. Now hurry up and fix it." If Applejack could grumble, she would, loudly, and then buck Miss Harshwhinny in the muzzle. Feigning obedience, she returned to the utility closet to grab a plumber's toolkit and trotted all the way back to Winter's room, with the matron pounding her halfway because she turned a corner to yell at another poor group of servants. Once more, Applejack stood before Winter's room, but knocked on the door this time. When no pony answered, she allowed herself in, damning all the rules of etiquette, until she fully realized the utter pointlessness of her presence here. Why should she slave herself to these spoiled ponies? Posy, especially. That matron could shove a plunger into her behind for all she cared. Applejack slammed the toolkit on the floor and decided to walk out. "Can I help you?" Applejack jumped, emerging from the walk-in closet, and half out of her dress was Winter, who stared straight ahead at the cross-dressing mare. "By golly, you really are cute," said Winter, "almost like a mare. Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon had said that you might be, if you pardon my language, queer." I've been sometimes called that." "You don't sound like you're from Gaiopolis. Are you from Appaloosa?"
"Yup."
"So you must be another refugee looking for work. In that case, my name is Winter Tulip. What's your name, comrade?"
"Oh, my name ain't anything the daughter of our glorious Chancellor should worry about."
"On the contrary, any pony who is a victim of the Pegasi horde is a dear comrade to me and my mom."
"It's, Jack."
"Jack? Short for Jackie? Jackson?"
Just Jack. The matron said that you have kind of clock in your bathroom.
Yeah, it's that sink over there. The rebel went to work. She felt more uncomfortable in the presence of the filly than that of matron Harshwinny. Unafraid of another pony in her room, if not a cross-dressing rebel mare, Winter went back and forth in her closet to try on new dresses before several mirror panels next to her large dresser. If that wasn't enough, she hummed playful songs as she lay on her bed reading various old books. She had literature that would have been forbidden in the common libraries of Gaia. "Those fillies who were with me," said Winter, "they're not my friends. They're just hunters of the elite Earth Party members trying to suck up to me. They're always acting so fake around me. Wouldn't surprise me that they hate me as much as I hate them." Applejack smirked. There was something so honest and genuine about Winter that took away the drudgery of unclogging pipes. For a pampered filly, she was certainly adorable, and it might explain why Applejack went back to her room, regardless of Harshwinny's nagging. "They're nothing but stuck-up spoiled brats," continued Winter, "always looking down on all the other foals like some unicorn bourgeois. We're supposed to be all equal earth ponies in Gaia, but I'm not sure if that's true. Mom always spoils me, but all I really want to do is spend time with her and travel through our great country. She has never time for me."
"I'm all finished, Lady Winter," said Applejack after rolling the sleeves back down onto her hoofs. "May you have many more happy birthdays."
"Thanks, but I'm not sure if today is my birthday. My mom thinks I don't know, but I heard her talking with Big Brother Lancer that I was adopted. It worried me a bit, but she really does love me. I guess in the end you can say we're both refugees." Winter spotted the pink ribbon on the floor and picked it up. "Oh, I'm so careless," said Winter. "I couldn't put this on in time for my party. Do you think you can get one of the maids to wash it for me real fast?"
"Is that very important to you?"
"It is. Mom says I had this when she found me when I was a baby. I never did get to find out what AB meant. Diamond Tiara, Silver Spoon, and I went through a lot of dictionaries, but Gaian and foreign, we still couldn't figure it out. No one else knows what AB means."
"Apple bloom."
"Pardon?"
"That's what it says, apple bloom."
The orange pony couldn't hold back her tears. She should have known when she first saw her. The yellow coat, the red mane and tail, and the most adorable orange eyes she had ever beheld.
"You're alive,"
Applejack wept. "Sir, are you all right?" "Listen, you have to believe me when I tell you this, but your name is Applebloom. You're part of the Apple family, but most importantly, you're my sister." "What are you saying?" "I'm not really a stallion. I'm a mare, and I'm your big sister. Oh, bless my heart, you're alive. You're alive. Thank the elements." "Why are you saying such wild things?" "Because it's all true, Applebloom." "No, it's not true. It's not." The filly gasped. "I knew I seen you before. On the TV. You're the rebel Applejack." "Applebloom, you gotta calm down." "No, my name is Winter Tulip. Winter. And I'm not an apple. Help! Help! Rebel Applejack is here." "Applebloom!"
"What's going on here?" Harshwinny demanded.
During Applejack's attempt to corner the filly back into her room, Winter gave her the slip, and Applejack inadvertently headbutted the matron hard in the muzzle. Ignoring her, Applejack followed the screams of Winter down the many hallways and promptly saw her diving behind the legs of 3 stallions. Here, Applejack faced off with a fuming Lancer and his 2 subordinates, Taurus and Aries. "Rebel Applejack!" cried Lancer. "What have you done to Lady Winter?" "I ain't got time for you and your goons, Lancer," Applejack retorted. "Get the hay out of my way." The stallions Taurus and Aries deployed their tonfas and galloped for the attack against the rebel, who transformed her element of truth in its katana form. The 2 stallions lunged from behind and in front to keep the mare in bay, and while their teamwork was impeccable, nothing could stop Applejack and her sword. She threw her blade into the air, caught its handle with her tail, and in a full circle swing of her sword, she dispatched Taurus and Ares. She didn't kill them, and the element of truth would only destroy those filled with falsehood, but one strike from its magical blade was enough to knock almost every pony out cold. Lancer was a different issue. He was one of the few stallions who kept his tail long, and with good reason. It was attached to his telescoping carbon fiber spear he used to gain additional control with his mouth or a free hoof. She kept Applejack at bay and at a distance with quick and repeating thrust of his weapon. He continued to drive her down the halls, closed in at her dead end, but the mare daringly charged forth, deeply grazing herself in the process. Caught by surprise, Lancer was picked up off his hoofs as Applejack pushed him through the doorway, through another doorway, and off the second-floor balcony. Lancer and his spear crashed onto a dessert cart before an astonished group of foreign delegates in a large and extravagant foyer. Posey, unamused by this surprising development, looked up to see the rebel Applejack beaming her anger towards her. "Posey!" cried Applejack, "you are mine!" The rebel mare leapt off into the ground floor of the grand foyer, using a group of 4 clone palace guards as cushioning before slashing her way towards the Chancellor. Many delegates screamed and promptly fled away from Applejack's wrath. The only pony who remained and still calm was the icy Chancellor Posey. At the very last minute, Teddy tossed over into the bewitchingly beautiful Chancellor's teeth an ornate black cutlass. Magic or technology, Posey's sword easily parried Applejack's element of truth, and the Chancellor backflipped up the stairs. Her icy stare and cold grin mocked Applejack into increased anger, and she slipped through the glass doors into the long carpeted hallways to allow the orange pony to chase her. When she arrived, Applejack had lost Posey, and there would be no way a mare like her to slip back into the grand foyer. It was no time for Applejack to let her guard down. She knew not of Posey's true age, and it was said that she single-hoovedly slew 100 Pegasi at the Battle of Horn's Ridge. That was one of the Chancellor's many legendary exploits, and she needed no government propaganda to drum up her fame. Posey was living a legend, a terrible, tyrannical legend. Suddenly, one of the wall lights shattered. In that moment, Posey leapt out from the shadows with a white slash, and then slid underneath Applejack's low-swung pipe to buck her in the stomach. Applejack was sent flying, but she managed to land back on her hoofs to face off what seemed to be a final strike Posey was preparing. Applejack winced. Both mares were of equal skill, and it would do them no good to waste time in this duel. Plus, the bleeding in the orange pony's shoulder would mean that Applejack would lose in the long run. And now she had to make this the last attack count. She accepted Posey's challenge by scratching her front hoof on the ground, and after a few tense seconds staring each other down, they charged. Their strikes had connected in a flash, and they faced opposite directions. Applejack suffered yet another long cut to her side, but she kept her body standing with wobbling hoofs. Posey, however, collapsed. Applejack could now focus at her throbbing pain all over her body. She turned around, preparing to triumphantly to gloat her revenge over the fallen Chancellor. She waited for this day for so long. She had words to say for this horrible mare, and if she was still conscious or alive to hear it, it was a heavenly perk. But it was not meant to be. Instead of a beautiful mare sprawled on the floor, there lay a black and gangly pony-like insect creature with a deep cut through its abdomen. The sharp odor from its gaping wound momentarily distracted Applejack, and all of a sudden she received a sharp shock in the back from one of Teddy's tasers. Unable to counterattack, she fell, and Taurus and Ares struck her left and right with their tonfas before slamming her whole wounded body down. Her katana reverted to its golden necklace form on her neck. With its bearer spent of her energy, Applejack could feel the shimmer of its apple-shaped jewel fading. In a final humiliating blow, Asa the Younger wiggled his butt before bucking the orange mare in the head. Her consciousness soon began fading, and the last thing she saw was a frightened winter tulip peering from behind Posy's legs.